What's up? It's What's the Hoops with Darron, Wallace, and Jason Andera. Jandy, for those of you who may or may not be familiar. So if you hear me call him that, that's why. We like to colloquially refer to him as Jandy.
I like to call him Darron.
Yeah. So we're talking some hoops. We're talking basketball, high school basketball in particular. It's been a bit of a wild ride this season in terms of, Class A, Class AA boys. A lot of consistencies, after that, top three. Not really sure what to make of any team after those top three. And then, Class A and B a little bit more defined at the top, but really all throughout, a lot of quality teams with some good records. And on the girls' side, kind of a little bit of the same. AA, you kind of know what you got at the top, not really too sure, really muddled up in the middle. Yep. But then A and B, just a lot of dominant teams at the top. It's been a pretty fun season to watch.
It has been fun, and we haven't done the weekly show yet this year, so this will be kind of we'll cover all our bases on this show, and then each week we'll dive deeper into maybe a few teams or a few matchups that look really good. But just to give you a background, you're exactly right. In boys AA this year, there's really nobody pulling away from the pack. You have Harrisburg, who had their only loss to a Tennessee team by 1 point, and then Tuesday night, they go out and lose in overtime to Roosevelt. So to me, that top three, Roosevelt, Mitchell, and Harrisburg, seems like the three teams that we really need to pay attention to, who look like they're on that title arc right now. Mitchell's only loss came in overtime to Harrisburg. Harrisburg went overtime with Roosevelt. So right now I'm looking at those three teams. But after that, there is a group of maybe 6, 7, even 8 teams who I think have the potential and could peak here in this next month or so. But right now, we're looking at those three teams for sure.
Yeah, and even just looking at the list, you see Roosevelt, Lincoln, and Washington, three of the teams that we were able to cover at the President's Bowl Classic. Those three teams were really impressive. No one really stood out as the absolute best among them, but it was just really competitive games. The scores might not have showed it, but I think we're kind of in that situation where on any given night, any one of these teams can beat any other one of these teams. So it'll be something to look out for as we inch closer to Valentine's Day.
Just as an example, to start the year, Washington played Lincoln in the first game of the year. Lincoln handled them, and now Washington's the ranked team, and Lincoln's out of the top 5. So that gives you a little bit of a taste of what's been going on in AA hoops this year.
Right, so we'll take a step away from AA. Let's go down a class to Single A, where Sioux Falls Christian will have them live on Midco Sports on Tuesday, January 3rd. Be sure to tune in and check that out. But Sioux Falls Christian, Dakota Valley, and Sioux Valley have been really the top three that have stood out to you, specifically Dakota Valley. 56-game winning streak still intact. They haven't lost in over 2 years now, but Sioux Falls Christian, they're the ones that are really the talk of the town, really the talk of the whole state.
Well, those are the three teams right now that are undefeated, that year in, year out, they have really built programs where they belong in that top 5 every single week. But right now, Sioux Falls Christian, they started last year and got about, I think, 60% of their scoring from sophomores last year. Now those guys are juniors, and you add in a couple of key seniors on that team, and they've really taken it to the next level. They got a big win against Hamlin. I think Hamlin's a team that everybody kind of expects to be there at the end of the year. Another really good young team that's coming together. But Sioux Falls Christian definitely seems to be the class of that class right now. Dakota Valley, on the other hand, we'll talk more about them when we preview the Hanson Classic, but this is a team that is so different than their 2 championship teams the last 2 years, but yet they still have the winning formula. They only have one guy on their team who didn't play JV ball last year, and yet they're still undefeated to start the season. That just tells you where they're at. And then Sioux Valley, still unbeaten on the year. They have a tough schedule like they have every year. So I think those are your 3 unbeaten teams to watch. And then Hamlin, of course, has lost a couple of games, but they belong right in that conversation. Had a 2-point game with Sioux Falls Christian. So I think that's a team that we'll be talking about here as a title contender.
Yeah, I was going to say Hamlin, one of those teams that pushed Sioux Falls Christian to the brink. They've had a few close calls recently, only a 6-point win a couple of weeks ago, and then the 2-point win over Hamlin. So Sioux Falls Christian, not unbeatable, but so far able to stay unbeaten at this point in the season. Moving on over to Class B now. In Class B, some new faces that we talked about a little bit, but also some of the mainstays. DeSmet. You talk about the Kalen Garys of the world and the Damon Wilkins. Those guys are gone.
They won some titles with those guys, but they're still hanging out in that top 5.
Right, but now there's some newer faces in there, but some that are familiar. So Class B, again, a lot of teams with a lot of really good records. So when you just look at the records, it might be hard to discern, who's really good and who's maybe not as good as their record may indicate. But what's really stood out to you in the class?
Yeah, you really have to look who these teams have played, and a lot of these top 5 teams are going to play really tough schedules. White River, has made the state tournament, 17 years in a row or some crazy number like that. They always are in that top 5. They're going to get a couple tests here over the next couple weeks. We'll be able to see if, maybe they're a team to look for. But right now, Castlewood is the team that's really standing out. Brian Lau is maybe a Player of the Year contender in Class B. He's got his team undefeated. If you've had a chance to watch him, he is a dunk machine. I think he had 5 dunk game last week, and last night a couple more, or Tuesday night had a couple more big dunks. So I think Castlewood's kind of separating themselves from the rest of the pack, especially what they did on Tuesday when they played Del Rapids St. Mary, another top 5 team, and they absolutely handled them from the beginning tip-off to the final buzzer. I mean, it wasn't close. So that shows you, the cream of this crop in Class B is really good this year.
Yeah, a lot of teams with some unbeaten records, 1-loss records. So Class B it will certainly, really all these classes on the boys and girls side,
it's
going to be interesting how it all shapes up when we get to playoff time, because hard to say who's really the best of the best. And I think
we got a couple months.
Yeah, as we start to get closer and closer to February 14th, I'm sure some of those teams will start to separate, and some of those other teams will really start to find themselves middling. But you always, like coaches always say, you want to play your best ball at the end of the year. So a lot of times for these teams to improve. But moving on now, we'll take a look at the Hanson Classic on the boys' side. It's a really well-known showcase of basketball in South Dakota. So let's take a look at what we've got coming up. We've got a few games on tap, and which ones stand out to you the most?
Well, the fun thing about the Hanson Classic is all day from 10 a.m. to past 10 p.m., you've got state title contenders going on the court. And
no bedtimes in high school.
Exactly. And the games keep getting better and better throughout the day. This year they've shuffled the schedule a little bit, so you got some really good ones in the middle of the afternoon. By the way, the girls' Hanson Classic was canceled last week because of weather. I don't remember the last time a Hanson Classic got canceled, but they are making up those games. They're leaving it up to the schools to reschedule those. So even more emphasis on this week's boys Hanson Classic. But I think things really start heating up at 2:30 when St. Thomas More takes on DeSmet. St. Thomas More, a strong Class A team, started out the season 7-0. They had a lot of one-score games, and then they lost a couple of games. One to Custer, maybe a little bit of a surprise to people, but then they lost to an undefeated Minot team who's a bigger school from out of state, so a respectable loss for them there. And they're really good defensively. They always have been under Coach Hollenbeck. They're going to come out with that strong man-to-man defense. It'll be interesting to see a good, solid Class A team take on one of the best Class B teams. With DeSmet coming out, Coach Gruenhagen said they've really improved defensively from the start of the season. They're starting to play better. They have had a really tough schedule, though. They had Hamlin on Tuesday. They've got St. Thomas More coming up on Saturday. Then they've got Castlewood, the number 1 team in Class B, coming up all in the span of a week. So we're going to see what DeSmet is made of. I really liked how they're spreading the scoring after really concentrating on Wilkinson and Gary over the last couple of years. This year there's 6 different guys who can go off on any given night and give them 10 points a game. So I think that's going to be a really fun one at 2:30. And then as you go to the 4 o'clock game, Sioux Valley, Rapid City Christian, another one I'm really looking forward to. Bill Vincent always brings a great show with Sioux Valley. You've got future SDSU big man Alex Squires in the middle for Sioux Valley, and he's been fun to watch. He had a breakaway dunk Tuesday night that was highlight worthy. Check that one out if you haven't been able to see that so far. But this is their biggest test of the year so far. They play Rapid City Christian, who hasn't been a Hanson Classic type of team, but now they're really becoming one of the better teams in Class A. They spread out the scoring with Benson Kiefer, Simon Kiefer. Julius Frogs had a big year, not only scoring but on the boards as well. And their head coach, Kyle Courtney, he is very excited to really play some quality teams. That's the one thing the knock has been on Rapid City Christian. Haven't had the quality of schedule over the last couple of years that some of these other teams have. Well, now they're in the Hanson Classic, able to get a quality game in the middle of January and see where they're at. Their big key is how are they going to overcome injuries. They've got a couple of injuries that they have to find some subs who are going to step up. So maybe not the best Rapid City Christian team at 100% going against a really good Sioux Valley team. I still think that's going to be a dynamite matchup. Then you've got an all-Class B matchup between White River and Del Rapids St. Mary. Right now, Nick Marshall is playing as well as anybody in the state for White River, 2 30-point games in the last week of play, just went over 1,000 career points. He has been a lot of fun to watch as the leader of that team. Del St. Mary just moved into the top 5 and then lost Tuesday night, so we'll see if this win can maybe keep them in the top 5. That'll be a really big test for this Cardinal team. And then later at night, you get to see Castlewood, a team that we talked about, the only undefeated team that really looks the part as a state title contender in Class B. And they'll take on Viborg Hurley, who has Nick Hanson. And I'll tell you what, just watching Nick Hanson go against Brian Lowy, that's one of the top matchups that we're going to see the entire day in Mitchell. I can't wait to see how those two compete against each other. And then the nightcap, this is the one that they look to as the crown jewel, the game everybody wants to see in the state, and that's Dakota Valley, who comes in with that long winning streak with their biggest test against Hamlin. And when I talked to Coach Jason Kleiss of Dakota Valley, he said, we are coming in as a big underdog. You know, when's the last time Dakota Valley's been able to say we came in as an underdog? He's playing it as the underdog role, but I'll tell you what, it's going to be a strong test for Hamlin, who has one of the best teams in the state, some of the best scorers, great athletes all around. Easton Neuendorf as their point guard leading things up. It's going to be a fantastic way to end a great day of hoops at the Corn Palace.
Yeah, and one of the prominent themes that you see among all these teams is defense, defense,
yes.
defense. I mean, you won't be missing anything. You're going to see great offense, but you're really going to see teams that are committed to the defensive side of the ball. And there's a reason that they emphasize that. As the old saying goes, defense wins championships.
Yep.
And this is going to be all championship caliber teams. One thing before we move on, though, the results of this game, how deep does it play a role in playoff seeding, in rankings? Because, you know, these aren't just your old run-of-the-mill games. These are going to be teams that are evenly matched, that are really good, top of the top. So are they more heavily weighed, or are they ones that you kind of consider more, they lost, but it was by 4, or, and against a really good team? How much does it make a difference?
Much more on that side, what you just said. These teams just love playing tough competition because they know we're playing with house money. Once we get to play a great team like that, it's going to make our team tournament ready, and that's all they care about. The wins and losses, great if it happens, if we stay undefeated. If we don't, I like Dakota Valley, for instance, if they lose, it's probably okay with them to not talk about the winning streak anymore because it's such a different team. If they do get a win, though, it does put them on the map as a real title contender to see. But wins and losses, not quite as important to most of these teams. They just want to play a really tough test in the middle of January and see where they're at as they make their run for the next month to get into playoff contention.
All right, Hanson Classic. Be sure to check it out. Should be really, really fun. That's all we have for the boys' side. Let's switch it over to the ladies, the girls. We start in Class AA. O'Gorman, I mean, what more can you say? You look at all their results, you look at all the scores, and it's not so much how much they're scoring, it's how little the teams are scoring against them. I mean, what makes them so good?
Well, we know Molly Abdush makes them really good. The future SDSU point guard, maybe the most competitive player I've seen in high school, and I'm talking boys, girls, football, basketball, she is so competitive out there, and that fuels the rest of this team. The other thing in girls basketball, in AA, it's really hard to find depth. I mean, you can find teams in AA that have 2 or 3 good players. They have 8 really good players rotating in and out of the game. They're able to stay fresh all the time. Their defenders, they've got more length on their defense, I think, than people thought they would with Julia Eggert and Okoye in the middle. I just think they are the most well-rounded team. I think on a certain day they could be beat. I mean, I don't think they're one of these elite teams that isn't going to be touched throughout the year, but they by far are the most complete team at this point in the season.
Yeah, and you look at some of the teams behind them. You look at Jefferson, Mitchell. How do those teams stack up as far as being able to compete? I mean, you mentioned Molly Abdush, future SDSU guard. One of my favorite players that we watched at the President's Bowl, Brinley Altenberg, the lead guard for Jefferson. Obviously, her teammate going to SDSU as well. I mean, these other teams have the talent to compete. How do you think they could stack up as the season goes on?
Well, I think when Jefferson played O'Gorman early in the year, Jefferson was not ready for that experience. I mean, even Brinley Altenberg, who's had such a tremendous last month of play, I don't think she was ready as a freshman, and that's why they struggled so much in that game. I think if they played again, it's going to be much closer. I think Jefferson has really elevated their game. They got a huge test, like you mentioned. They played T-Area. T-Area is still a Class A team, but they're scheduling a AA schedule, getting ready to move to AA here in the next year or two, whenever the next cycle comes up. And they went toe-to-toe with T, and T has, of course, Katie Vasika, one of the best players in high school basketball. But that was a fun game to watch, back and forth. And Jefferson really, to me, showed they've got the moxie, they've got the potential to move up and be able to compete with a team like O'Gorman. Mitchell, on the other hand, they're still undefeated. They're a team that loves to defend. They've got the athletes. They just don't have the size, and they haven't played a tough schedule yet so far. They've only beaten one team over 500, and they've got some big tests coming here in the coming weeks against Harrisburg, Jefferson. We'll see how they do against that crowd. If they start winning those games, then we got to add Mitchell to the mix as a team to watch out for in AA.
Yeah, AA really top heavy. There's a few teams over there that are really kind of separating themselves from the pack, and I don't anticipate that changing much.
A huge middle ground, though.
Yeah, is there any team that maybe might not be near the top that you think could maybe ascend into that top rank and maybe be a possible title?
I for sure do. I think you got a young team like Aberdeen Central. They just had a tough loss to O'Gorman on Tuesday night, but I think that's a learning experience that could make them into a contender. Brandon Valley, another team that they rely on sophomores as their two leading scorers. I think they've got room to grow. Pierre went to the state championship game last year, and I know they're losing their biggest shooter from that group, but now they've got a vote in the rankings now. They got a big win over Washington. That gives them the confidence to maybe be one of those teams in the mix too. Rapid City, Stevens, you could just name almost all the AA teams and say, I can see a scenario where they could get themselves to be on playing on a Friday night on a semifinal state championship chance to go to a championship game. Not saying they'll do it, but there's a lot of teams that have that type of potential.
Oh yeah, Class AA on the girls' side. Should be fun to watch how it all shakes up, but those top teams are really exciting to watch, and hopefully they'll start to match up against each other.
Yeah, it's going to be some good matchups.
We'll take a step down over to Class A, where Sisseton's really been kind of the standard over in that class. And do you really anticipate anyone catching up to their level of play?
Nobody's been voting for Sisseton until Wagner lost and T Area lost, so it's like a default number one. It's like they should not be a default number one. I've been voting them number one the entire season. I think they are the most unknown number one team in the state of all the 6 classes, all the number ones. People know the least about Sisseton, and they need to know more. So I reached out to Coach Sarah Lincoln and said, what do we need to know about this team? And she was more than happy to share that she's got not just one of the best athletic teams that they've had, they've got some of the best kids, and I just want to make a few points of what she told me. Hannah Leverson scored 1,000 points last year. She's a senior now, headed to Mankato to play. And then you've got, I got to make sure I say her name right, Krista Longhager is a 6-foot interior player, about to score 1,000 points, and she's a really good baker. Not only a really good blocker, a really good baker.
She's baking in the paint.
Chloe, her sister, is tied for the smartest kid in school. And guess who she's tied with? She's tied with Emma Nielsen, who is her teammate, who's also the smartest kid in school. You've got Ruby Rice, who's gluten-free. I don't know if that makes her special, but she here's what does make her special, though. She has her own cleaning, lawn mowing, and snow blowing service that she does. I mean, that's a lot for a high school kid to be able to do. And Tara Nielsen's ambidextrous. You've got...
so she shoots right and left-handed?
She shoots right and left-handed. And you need to know this. Alexa Quinn, a full-time nurse in her part-time. Like, I don't even know what that means. It says full-time nurse in her part-time. She's working hard to be a basketball player, an athlete, and a full-time nurse.
Wow.
And then you've got Riley, who's a state finisher in hurdles, and sings the national anthem better than anybody else on the team. So this Sisseton team, what I'm trying to say...
They're not just basketball players.
These girls
are doing it all.
Are doing it all. For them, basketball's like their break, and they're going undefeated, and they are having fun doing it. I just think this is a team you need to know about because everybody's sleeping on them a little bit, and they're still undefeated. They have some tough games coming up, though. They're going to have a rescheduled game against Lennox coming up. That's going to be a huge test for them, but I can't wait to see the potential of this Sisseton team. It's going to be a lot of fun to see.
Yeah, Sisseton doing it on and off the court.
Good stuff.
What more can
Thanks,
you
Sarah.
say? Well, yeah, Class A, Sisseton is really the talk of the class right now, so we'll give them their flowers for now and leave it at that. Let's go jump down to Class B, where Centerville Lyman and Ethan are your cream of the crop. What makes them so good, Janet?
Yeah, Centerville right now, they've had a couple of tough games. They were able to get wins against teams like Wall, for instance. Lyman, they've got some really good young players. And I'll tell you what, every time I look at Skylar Vollmer and Max Scott, they're doing some amazing things. They just haven't played quite as tough a schedule as the rest of the group. And for me, I've been voting Ethan number one. They have the one loss early in the year to Hanson, but you look at what they've done against everybody else, and it's not even close. I think this Ethan team is the one to watch. And then Wall, despite their couple of losses in the loss column, I think they're a team you have to watch for. In the end, they've got the state tournament experience. They've got the shooters. They've got really good diversity on their team as far as post players and guards. Definitely another team to watch in Class B. This is going to be some new names this year that rise to the top in Class B.
Yeah, a lot of the historical top dogs kind of taking a back seat to some of these newer teams that have really come on and surprised a lot of folks. Is there any, you mentioned, at the beginning that this is our first episode and we're doing it kind of here late in January. On the boys and girls side, any surprises for you that you've been really enjoying watching? Any teams that you maybe didn't expect anything out of that have really kind of come to wow you?
Well, let's talk about a team like the Roosevelt Girls, who started the season coming off of a one-win season last year, make some huge strides, play with Washington in the President's Bowl game that we saw, and then they played right with Harrisburg last night. I tell you what, this team could be a dangerous team come playoff time. They could do some really fun things. And then, a lot of these other teams that are not ranked right now who could make a run, especially in these AA boys and girls side, I think we have to keep an eye on, because there's going to be some rotation here coming up very soon.
Yeah, a lot of these teams going to start playing each other a lot more with the meat of conference play, getting into it. It's a good time to be a basketball fan, whether you like high school, even if you like college, the Summit League's getting going.
So much.
A lot of great basketball going on in our area, boys and girls games. So we'll step away from those teams and we'll take a look at what's coming up for some of these teams. Some pretty big matchups. We've got, you mentioned it earlier, Jefferson at the Harrisburg Girls. That'll be on Thursday. Then for boys, we've got Vermilion at Sioux Falls Christian. We've got Lincoln at Mitchell. Those three games all on Thursday. Any of those three really stand out?
I'm really looking forward to those tests. Mitchell's going to get a test with Lincoln, who can really shoot the rock. Sioux Falls Christian, they continue their tough schedule before we see them on Tuesday night on Midco Sports. So I want to check out and see how they do against Vermilion, a team that's caused some other teams some issues this year so far. So that could be good. And then we jump ahead to Saturday. We already talked about the Hanson Classic being really good, but there's also a game between Wagner and Florence Henry. Several future college players playing in that game, and I'm going to keep my eyes on that one for sure.
Yeah, and then after the weekend, we'll have our Sunday off, of course, and then Monday we're right back into it with Castlewood and DeSmet. 9-0 Castlewood and 8-1 DeSmet. These are two teams where you said Castlewood's kind of one of those newer teams, and DeSmet's a team that stayed in the mix for so long with the talent that they had. What are you expecting from this one? You know
what? Castlewood is a team they've really, really defended it well, and they're going to have their hands full trying to defend DeSmet, who comes at it with so many different angles. But Lane Tweet and Brian Lowy, just so much fun to watch. They look like the best team, and DeSmet could give them a challenge, but DeSmet will be coming off, like I said, maybe the toughest schedule anybody in Class B has, playing Hamlin, St. Thomas More, and then DeSmet playing Castlewood. So that's going to be really, they're going to have to get up off the floor to see what they can muster on Monday night. Yeah, it's a tough gauntlet to go through. Some of the top teams in that class all back to back to back. And then we'll round out our big games upcoming with Tuesday. You've got for the girls, Mitchell at Harrisburg. Big test. Sioux Falls Christian against T-Area. And then on the boys, you got Washington and Lincoln, who, like we mentioned, we saw them at the President's Bowl Classic, and all four of those teams really played each other tough, even if the scoreboard maybe might not have been reflective of that. So some really good matchups to round out the week of games that we have coming up for our next show. We have to highlight that Sioux Falls Christian T-Area girls game. We've got the girls and the boys game, 6:30 and 8 o'clock. Live right here on Midco Sports. Me and Brad Newitt will be on the call for that one. Really looking forward to Sioux Falls Christian. Comes in with one loss on the girls' side. T-Area comes in with one loss and has Katie Vasika. That's must-see TV for South Dakota high school girls basketball fans. Mitchell gets their first huge test against Harrisburg that night. That's going to kind of reveal to us how good those Colonels really are. And then Washington and Lincoln, they played the first game of the year on the boys' side. Lincoln absolutely dominated that game. And as I've said, Washington's really even the playing field as far as looking at their season looking at their entire season of how they've done up until now. So I think we're going to have a very different result than we did back in December.
And Washington looking for a new game changer.
Yes, gotta love those.
Shout out to Tommy Hoffman for an incredible performance in the Pentagon a few weeks ago. But that'll do it for What's the Hoops with Darron Wallace and Jason Andera. It's been a fun one, and we know that the high school basketball season is really getting deep into the swing of things. So if you've been keeping up and keeping along, please keep doing so. We will certainly be doing the same. We will catch you guys next week. Thanks for watching, and as always, What's the Hoops?
What's the Hoops?